What's going on, Fresh Bake? Welcome back to another episode of the Knothole Gang, and we are going to start our show off as usual from the backside of Galaxy's Edge, looking at the backside of Battle Escape. And right off the bat, we're going to see we've got some new sort of kind of red paneling of some kind being installed on that eastern wall. I don't know if that's going to be something they're going to cover the entire backside or not, or if it's just a perimeter type deal, but that's a thing that's happening. I'm not sure what function that is. If it's not cosmetic, I don't know yet what the practical function of it might be, but I can't imagine it's a cosmetic thing because it doesn't have a lot of appeal to it if you look at it closely. It's just plain material. We'll zoom in a little bit to see what's going on here. Now, not a lot to see in the plain view, but if we're going to pause right here and zoom in, I was watching a Yensa55 video, and he had spotted a structure that we're going to try to point out here in a minute, but you can't see it anymore. But what we are seeing, though, is that they're adding more steel framework to the wall facing the rivers of America. And my assumption is that that's going to be support work or framing for additional rock features on that side. But if we zoom in, you can see that's been attached to the Q building, and then my guess is that it's going to run for quite a while. It's a large piece that's going to run for quite a while in the front of that part of the building. And then if we zoom in even closer, this is the thing that I saw in another video. There's a curved, you can see some curved steelwork back there. That is for what I believe to be, we're not even sure what this thing is. It looks like it could be the hull of a spacecraft, but I'm not sure what kind it would be. But it's obviously visible in the model. If you look at the model, you can see what you can compare that to. That rests in front of the Battle Escape building, and using that as a reference, we can then make the assumption that if you go back and to the left a little bit, you can see we're guessing, and this is what Yensa55 had also guessed as well in his video, is that it's going to be support work for this arch right here. Now you can see that there's it's dark under there, so I'm wondering if that's an area that's guests are going to get into underneath that. I'm not sure. But that's an interesting little piece that they're working on here. I'm going to follow that closely if I can. If we get a decent enough view, we're going to follow that because that's pretty cool looking. Now we'll take a look at the this area that we've been following for a while, the queue, the tunnel queue entering the Battle Escape building. Not a whole lot of progress here from last week. If we go back 5 weeks, you can see that a lot has happened in 5 weeks. They put in, all the forms are done. They put in concrete. They put in the dirt. They put in the black liner, the water sealant. And then here's 3 weeks ago. And then back to today. So really what we've seen here is the black lining has been done, the waterproofing lining. And it looks like more dirt. They're getting ready, I think. Again, I think I mentioned this last week. They're getting ready to top that off, I bet. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll see the fruits of that effort. All right, so we're going to do a pan across the top of the building, but before we can get started, let's pause right here because we're going to get another look at the size of this. Is that same structure that we talked about earlier. The support work being done, it goes all the way up the height of the building, which is kind of neat. That's a lot of steel that they're putting on in front of that building. So again, this is something that we're going to be able to watch, I believe. We're going to try to maybe get a better angle on it. I didn't pick this up on site, so I didn't get the best possible angle I could get of it. But next week, we'll try to find a more advantageous angle from which to view that. And then we'll pan across the top. We're going to cover more of this later on. There's some new peaks and mountain ranges that it's becoming more visible and more obvious. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're going to zoom in here a little bit to take a look at that section that is in between the two mountain peaks. That has progressed a little bit over the last few weeks. I never really noticed this area much before because it was just single pieces of steel. If we go back, this is 5 weeks ago. I mean, it does look about the same. It blended in. Maybe because it was overcast, I couldn't see anything. Those gray beams sure do blend in on an overcast day. The picture of this day was super bright and clear on this day when we filmed. So you'll notice the color is so much brighter than it has been in previous episodes. And then there's another section that you can see in between the two warts at the top of the Battle Escape building. There's another section that is starting to take more shape, and there's a picture that's 5 weeks ago. Again, blended right in with those trees. Couldn't hardly tell, but it's starting to fill out. I'm not even sure what that is yet. Actually, I'm gonna have to try to map that out in future efforts. We'll go over to Millennium Falcon, take a look at the backside of that building. I think all we're gonna look at here is just the roof line. Not a lot of changes going on here. This has pretty much been static, and then we'll get a little close-up of that range work that's being done behind the three peaks first. There's that. That is, a lot of steel added there since in the last 5 weeks. That's 5 weeks ago right there. So that's quite a lot of progress there. And then we'll just give you guys a little close-up here in a second of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. We're not going to do a comparison because it hasn't moved a lot. The textures that they're adding are fairly final these days. They're not going to be adding a lot more. What's next, if anything, is color. Okay, let's do our left to right pan of the entire land. And in this week, we are going to take a closer look at some of those peaks that we can see, peeking over the top of the roof line for a Battle Escape building. And that's that building that we saw in between the two warts. Again, I'm not really sure what that is. Oh boy, you know what? I got to work on that. I can't even guess what that building is if you were to look at it from the other side. All right, so let's stop here because that's some mesh work that I hadn't noticed before. That the mountain is just starting to creep over the entire building is really what I'm saying. You can see it was there before, but again, it was dark and gray, hard to spot. But it's more clear today or on this day than it has been in the past. But we're going to see more and more of this as time goes on because eventually, if you've seen the model, that entire front side of that building is going to look like a mountain from the other side. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of this. Here's another one. Yeah, right there. That little range right there, that peak. It's not a spire so much. It's just rock. And we'll compare that to five weeks ago as well, which it was hardly anything at all, really. We'll finish our pan and then head over to the Mark Twain and the Rivers of America, where we're going to see, in just a second, some guys working. Now, don't get too excited. All they're doing is putting in the what do you call it? Not the scaffolding, but the boards on which they stand. They're putting in the framework for that. So that's not actual Star Wars land that those guys are handling right there. It's not quite as sexy as steelwork, but yeah, they're getting ready to do a lot of work around those. So there's going to be a lot of standing, a lot of the guys are going to come in and do apply the textures to that rock formation right there. So you need to have those supports up. I guess I was enjoying that view quite a lot. I don't often get to see guys working on Saturdays, so that was kind of fun. Now we're going to pull out a little bit and slide to the right, I'm sure. Okay. There we go. Some guys working on that peak. A lot of dudes working there. Those guys are all probably working on textures to that spire. Now this has been a point of interest for Ian and I. We've been trying to figure out. I'm going to show you here in just a second. There's a building that we can see taking shape just on the other side of the berm, through the trees. Hard to say for sure which building that is, but I'm going to guess if we look at the model, my gut says it's this one right here. There's not a lot of angles of the model, not a lot of photographs of the model from this direction. Most of the good photos of the model, including ours, are from the opposite side, facing the other direction, which is unfortunate. So it's hard to kind of, be confident on which structure you're looking at. But I feel like that's what this is right here.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Everything looks a lot bigger, on site than it does on the model, which is one of the reasons why it's kind of hard for me sometimes to place a thing or a structure on the model, because they all look smaller, obviously, because it's smaller. Won't be doing any comparison on these areas here because I kind of screwed the pooch when I was filming. We'll get to that in a second, but I just, maybe next week, I just wanted to give a long, clean view of the mountain range that's being installed back there. There's those guys again putting together the catwalks, as it were. What do you call, is that what you call that, a catwalk? I don't know. Wow. So there's usually there's 2 or 3 shots that I get from this side of the river. This is one of them, and then the other one is the one I get after you pass the Native American village. Except that I was too busy enjoying the river, which we'll see me commentate here in a second. So I only got the very last minute, and I said, you know what, screw it. Here's your aesthetic view of the rivers of America. So we'll thank you guys for watching Fresh Baked, and we'll see you next week. Fresh Baked and stuff.
I'm so sorry, Fresh Baked. I was too busy thinking about the Mark Twain and the rivers.
It's almost like the ride, the attraction was drawing you in and you were enjoying it.
I was at Disneyland for a minute.
Wow, for a crazy thought. This is why, it's the nicest way. I can't wait till we can't see any more progress.
Right,
and when
right.
we ride this, it'll be for the purpose of enjoying it and
So
actually letting it do its job.
Absolutely. This.
We've got lots more videos for you to see, so grab a churro and check out some of our other videos and have your mind blown by how much fun we're having. We truly are the best of Disney Bake Fresh Daily. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Fresh Baked!